The baby monitor didn't just pick up the sound of my infant daughter crying in her crib, it broadcasted the unmistakable sound of my own voice aggressively screaming at her to shut up. The audio was slightly distorted, layered with a terrifying, hysterical edge. The only problem was that I was standing completely silent in the hallway, holding the receiver in my freezing hands, staring blankly at the closed nursery door. The voice on the monitor took a breath and yelled again, using phrases I had never spoken in my life. It was a perfect, chilling replication of my vocal cadence. I didn't drop the monitor. I didn't push open the door and scream. A sudden, absolute clarity washed over me, replacing the sleep deprivation of the last few months with cold, mechanical focus. For weeks, I had been experiencing bizarre memory lapses and terrifying moments of confusion. I would wake up exhausted, finding the kitchen in disarray with my husband. Liam, looking at me with overwhelming pity, claiming I had been pacing the house all night, muttering to myself. His mother, Beatrice, had practically moved into our guest room to help out. She constantly cornered me in the hallway, adjusting my clothes with a patronizing sigh, whispering that postpartum psychosis was a tragedy, but that she would always be there to protect the baby. They were building a narrative. They were painting me as an erratic, unstable, and dangerous mother. I quietly opened the nursery door. The room was pitch black. My daughter was safe in her crib, fussing quietly. I traced the sound of the deep-faked screaming to a tiny black mesh square tucked behind the changing table. It was a micro Bluetooth speaker. Someone was actively transmitting that audio file into the room, timing it perfectly with the baby's cries to be captured by the main monitor. I left the speaker exactly where it was. I walked back to my bedroom and looked at Liam. He was fast asleep, his smartphone resting on the nightstand, its screen glowing faintly. Confrontation is the weapon of the weak when you are dealing with a predator who is trying to systematically dismantle your reality. Letting them know you are onto them is a fatal mistake. Instead of waking him up, I became a ghost in my own house. Over the next 48 hours, I conducted a silent, microscopic investigation of my environment. When Liam and Beatrice took the baby out for a walk to give me some much-needed rest, I bypassed the passcode on Liam's laptop using a backdoor bypass I had watched him use months ago. I found a hidden, encrypted folder labeled with our daughter's birth date. Inside were dozens of AI-generated audio files of my voice screaming, crying, and making threats of self-harm. There was also a meticulously updated spreadsheet documenting my supposed erratic behavior, complete with fabricated dates and times. The scope of their betrayal was breathtaking. Liam wasn't just having an affair or planning a standard divorce. He wanted full custody of our daughter and the family home without a legal fight. He and Beatrice were orchestrating a scenario where they could call the authorities, play these fabricated recordings, present the spreadsheet, and have me involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility. But the deepfakes were only half of the puzzle. I still couldn't explain my actual physical lethargy and the brain fog that had been plaguing me. The answer was sitting on the kitchen counter in a neatly labeled pill organizer. Beatrice had insisted on managing my daily postpartum vitamins, claiming it was her way of ensuring I stayed healthy. I took one of the large white capsules to a private independent testing laboratory 2 towns over and paid for an expedited toxicology screen in cash. The results were emailed to me the next morning. The capsule did not contain vitamins. It had been emptied and repacked with a heavy, prescription-grade sedative commonly used to treat severe insomnia. Every morning, my mother-in-law was handing me a chemical cocktail designed to make me appear heavily medicated, sluggish, and incoherent. I felt a dangerous, quiet rage settle into my bones, but I forced my face to remain a mask of exhausted vulnerability. If they wanted a crazy, helpless wife, I was going to give them an Oscar-winning performance. I started leaving my hair unbrushed. I would purposefully stare blankly at the wall when Beatrice spoke to me, letting her see exactly what she wanted to see. Meanwhile, I bought 5 high-definition, motion-activated micro cameras with cloud sync capabilities using a prepaid debit card. I hid them seamlessly in the living room vents, the kitchen smoke detector, and the nursery bookshelf. Within 3 days, I had a digital vault of indisputable, high-definition evidence. I had footage of Beatrice carefully opening my vitamin capsules over the kitchen sink, grinding up the sedatives, and repacking them. I had footage of Liam sitting on the couch in the middle of the night, connecting his phone to the Bluetooth speaker in the nursery and playing the deep-fake audio of me screaming. I watched them sit at the dining table, drinking wine, laughing quietly as they rehearsed what they were going to tell the police when the time came. The climax arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Liam had told me he was taking the day off to spend time with the family, but the atmosphere in the house was thick with nervous anticipation. Beatrice had packed a small overnight bag and left it by the front door. They were ready to execute their plan. I was sitting on the living room rug, holding my daughter, pretending to be utterly zoned out. I had intentionally skipped my Tampered vitamins for 3 days, so my mind was sharper and clearer than it had been in months. But I kept my eyes dull, and my posture slumped. The doorbell rang. Liam practically sprinted to answer it. He opened the door to reveal 2 uniformed police officers and a stern-looking woman clutching a clipboard from Child Protective Services. Liam instantly dropped his shoulders and put on the performance of his life. He looked at the officers with perfectly manufactured tears in his eyes and pointed a shaking finger at me. He told them that his wife had suffered a complete mental collapse. He handed the CPS worker his smartphone, offering the fabricated spreadsheet and the deep-fake audio recordings as proof of my violent tendencies. Beatrice stood behind him, clutching her pearls and sobbing dramatically, begging the officers to take the baby before I did something terrible. The officers stepped into the living room, their hands resting cautiously on their belts. The CPS worker approached me slowly, speaking in that soft, patronizing tone reserved for the dangerously unstable. She asked me to hand over the baby and stand up. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not act like a terrified victim. I gently placed my daughter in her automated bassinet, stood up, smoothed my clothes, and looked the lead officer dead in the eyes. I told the officer that I was completely lucid, entirely sober, and the victim of an elaborate, premeditated conspiracy to commit medical sabotage and fraud. Liam laughed out loud, a harsh, dismissive sound. He told the police that paranoia was one of my symptoms and begged them to just listen to the recordings on his phone. I walked over to the television console, picked up the remote, and turned on the massive flat screen. I had already routed my secure cloud drive to the television's casting system. I didn't say a word to Liam or Beatrice. I simply pressed play on the first video file. The living room filled with the crystal-clear video of Beatrice standing at the kitchen sink, grinding up prescription sedatives and packing them into my vitamin capsules. The CPS worker stopped writing on her clipboard and stared at the screen, completely paralyzed. Before Liam could even process what he was seeing, I pressed play on the next file. The screen showed Liam in the pitch-black living room, grinning maliciously as he connected to the hidden nursery speaker and selected a deepfake audio file of my voice. The police officers immediately stepped away from Liam, their postures shifting from cautious concern to severe, authoritative hostility. Liam's face drained of all color. He stuttered, taking a step backward, desperately trying to claim that the videos were somehow faked or taken out of context. Beatrice collapsed onto the sofa, her dramatic sobbing suddenly transforming into very real, hyperventilating panic. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the printed, stamped toxicology report from the independent lab, handing it directly to the lead officer. I explained exactly what chemical they had been feeding me, and pointed out the hidden cameras that had captured every second of their conspiracy. The transition in the room was absolute. The CPS worker, realizing she had been manipulated into facilitating a kidnapping, furiously crossed out everything she had written on her clipboard and stepped protectively toward my daughter's bassinet. The lead officer didn't ask Liam any more questions. He simply unclipped his handcuffs and told Liam to turn around and place his hands behind his back. When Beatrice tried to stand up and intervene, the second officer ordered her to remain seated and read her rights. They had tried to build a cage of insanity around me, assuming my silence meant I was breaking. They failed to realize that while they were busy playing amateur audio engineers, I was building an ironclad legal and criminal case against them. The fallout was rapid and entirely merciless. Liam and Beatrice were both arrested on the spot for a multitude of severe felonies, including medical tampering, child endangerment, filing a false police report, and domestic abuse. Because the evidence was captured in high definition and backed by a certified toxicology report, their defense attorneys had absolutely nothing to work with. They were denied bail due to the predatory nature of the crimes and the flight risk Beatrice posed. I filed for an emergency, permanent restraining order, and an immediate, uncontested divorce. With Liam sitting in a county jail cell facing a minimum of 10 years, a judge granted me sole legal and physical custody of our daughter within a matter of days. I secured the house, changed the locks, and threw every single piece of their belongings into the driveway for a junk removal service to haul away to the landfill. Liam tried to call me once from the jail's phone system, leaving a pathetic, weeping voicemail begging for forgiveness, claiming the pressure of fatherhood had made him do crazy things. I didn't delete the voicemail. I forwarded it directly to the prosecuting attorney as an admission of guilt. I never shed a single tear over the end of my marriage. You don't cry when you successfully surgically remove a tumor. You just enjoy the clean bill of health. My daughter and I are thriving in the peace and quiet of a home that is entirely our own, while Liam and his mother get to spend the next decade in separate state facilities, wishing they had never tried to test the limits of my sanity.